Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode with my friend Larry. Wait a minute. You're
Yeah.
not Larry Namer.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
Oh, Johnny is here. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, man. Good to have you here on the show. I guess
Yeah.
Larry kind of ditched us again today, huh?
Standing in for him.
Well, yes, I see. I'm glad you're here. And we have a very special guest. Um, Anna Fishbein is here with us today. So, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Um,
Thank you for
Yeah, please go ahead. Nice to have you here. And let's talk a little bit about your background. I mean, obviously, as I was reading up on you, I'm very impressed with everything that you've achieved. So why don't you take us a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today. So go ahead.
yeah, so I started out basically being a writer, and I was writing a novel, and but I also, while I was writing a novel, I would perform little bits of my stories in little clubs in New York, and I did a little show called Conversations with My Breasts. And and it was really fun. It was a bunch of essays, and I packed the house, and lots of people came, and people came up to me and they said, you're an actress. You're an actress. And I said, what? No. I said, I know I'm an intellectual. I'm a writer. And so from there, I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to dip my feet a little bit into this acting thing, and maybe it will work, and maybe it'll be fun. And because I wrote and I created my own work, I wanted to keep doing that. And so the next thing I did was a play called Sex in Mommyville, and it got like because it was called Sex in Mommyville, which was like the antithesis of what everybody thinks moms do. We got like, I don't know, lots of publicity, 12 feature stories before I even got on stage, and it was my very first foray into acting, my very first attempt at this whole you know entertainment world, so to speak. And at the time, it was just the New York scene, the New York off-Broadway scene, and it was amazing. And once that happened, I started thinking about film, and then created a web series called Happy Hour Feminism. And it was a fun little project, and the idea in the film really stuck with me. I mean, in the web series, the idea was, it's a future. Women are in charge. Men come in with problems like, they want to get thinner, they want to get hotter, they want to take care of their looks, and women are just running the show. They're running the media. They are in charge of corporations, and I just wanted to reverse gender and see what that feeling is like. And it was so funny, and it was so fun. And I created 4 episodes. It ended up getting accepted into over like 17 film festivals, and we got lots of awards. And that's what really got me thinking that I should make this into a feature film, and make it really fun. And so, which brought me to Galaxy 360. And what I basically did, and I had created an episode where there was a pageant, a male beauty pageant, and then I said, this could be really something. Let's discover what it's like. Let's listen to every pageant contestant and all these guys who are trying to be sexier and hotter and thinner and younger, and they're competing, and the women are judging. And that's how I created Galaxy 360. That's
That's
basically
cool.
the route.
And did you get a good response from both men and women audience when you had your screening? How did
yeah,
they perceive
so
it?
Yeah, so I had a screening last night at the Santa Monica theater, independent theater, and it was really great. It was a private screening, and I was grateful that it was a private screening because it was my first, opening out into the world. Um, it's my final sort of version of the film, and I had a pre-release screening at the Cannes Film Festival, so I already knew that I had great responses from both genders, and men just they really they really get the humor in this, and I am always impressed with their response to the film. They really love being made fun of in the way that I do. Um, And the women are really touched because they say, this is sort of the world that we live in, and these are the men basically represent their lives on screen in
Mm-hmm.
the future, right? So I had a great response last night. I've had a great response at the Cannes Film Festival before the pandemic. So I kind of feel that this movie really should be out there, and it really speaks to people, and I'm excited to see, where it goes from here.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, look, a lot of the people that are watching this show are people that either want to get into the entertainment business or people that are, love the business and want to get into it. And for someone like yourself who is an independent, I guess you're an independent artist, and was able to make a feature film. I mean, that's huge, right? Can you tell us a little bit about the process? I mean, yeah, you talked about the opening, and that's obviously the most exciting part. I'm a musician. When I finish my album and we premiere it to people, that's the most exciting part. But
Yeah.
there's so much goes on, to get to that point, right? So
Yeah.
can you take us a little bit behind the scenes and just tell us how it all started? You told us a little bit how it came about, the idea, but then how are you able to go and raise the funding and cast it and all of that? Can you take us a little bit behind the scenes, how the movie was made?
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't start out as an actor. I didn't start out as a person who was just auditioning. I started out as the person who was always creating. Um, so I had a kind of a different approach. I star in the movie because I love acting, and it's an amazing experience, and I appreciate everybody who wants to go into it. And I so appreciate talent. And I know. So when I first started out, even I'll say with the web series, I would say the biggest advice I can give is kind of like one small step at a time. So I didn't start out thinking I'm going to make a feature film when I was making the web series. I started out thinking I'm going to make a 7-minute episode. Um, and it's like when you're thinking about the 7-minute episode ended up becoming 15 minutes, right? And what helps is kind of making a small goal for yourself and then achieving that goal. And it wasn't as expensive. It wasn't that expensive to make the web series, right? So you also pool. I also pool talent. People who kind of you worked with them on one thing, you worked with them on another thing, and you ask them. You say, let's do this, and we're gonna work together, and maybe this will go places. And I won't be able to pay that much, but we will work together in the future. And I've actually worked with some people continuously. Like my DP, he worked with me on my short film, and then he worked with me on Galaxy, and actors I'd worked with previously or had experiences with. Like I would have readings for Sex and Mommyville, and I would have various like rehearsals, or I would come in for an acting class, and I would meet somebody, and I'd be like, you're really good. And I would always notice. I was always thinking of projects. Like I was always thinking. I always had like I would be in an acting class, but I always had my producer hat on, and
Mm-hmm.
I would think, oh, this person is just so excellent. Um, and I was once brought in to a friend asked me to do some acting for her for a web series she was creating. And I said, like, I don't know if I want to do it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. She's asking me. It's a favor. I'll do it. I'll show up for this web series. I showed up. That web series never ended up getting made, but I found one of my main actresses, Athena, who ended up becoming one of the judges. And the reason I discovered her was because she was such a great actress. And each person, like, so, and the woman who plays the Baroness, who is the owner of the pageant, Squeaky Moore, I discovered her at another film festival where I won an award for Best Web Series, and she won an award for Best Actress. And I called her when I was making this movie, and I said, "Hey, Squeaky, are you doing anything on this date? I'd like to get you to come in for this." And so I really kind of always looked for actors, and I always used to say to my actor friends, like, be out there as much as you can, because you never know, because the person next to you who might be acting just like you may be creating something tomorrow. And there was an actress, Lauren, who's the third judge. She was incredible. We met because I had a solo show in New York, in off Broadway. She had an off Broadway show that was a solo show, and she kept trying to get me to come to her show to see her acting. And I never could make it. I could never make it. I could never make it. And suddenly, Lauren started posting little video clips of her acting, and she would post them on Facebook, and she would do different characters, and she would be really funny, and she would play an old woman, and she would play a little girl, and she would play an Italian mob wife. And I said, oh my God, this girl is amazing, and she's so funny. So I called her and I said, do you want to be in my movie? And
Mhm.
she was like, what, you're making a movie?
Wow.
And so that was one of the ways in which I cast my actors. And the men, I actually put out a backstage, and I got maybe like 1,500 applications. And then I had an assistant who went through the 1,500. We narrowed it down to like 500. And then from the 500, we narrowed it down to 100. And then we finally got to the 8 guys who we cast.
Wow. And were all the auditions virtual? Because that seems the way things are now.
Yes, all the guys I auditioned on, I think it was on Skype at the time. And we just had Skype interviews, and I asked them three critical questions. And they really made the decision for me. I said, how do you feel about being in a bathing suit for a lot of the time and a lot of the rehearsal time? The number two question is, how comfortable are you discussing your body and your own insecurities? And if they, during the interview, went into their own insecurities and how they feel about that, that was a big plus. Like if they were like, yeah, I feel like, I could lose a little weight, and, I could work out a little more. I was like, oh, you are what I'm looking for, And then the final question was always, how do you feel about women and the world that we live in today? And if they were sympathetic and empathetic, they were the man for me, and so to speak. And the guys who are in this, the 8 contestants, are such incredible men. They were so empathetic to us. They were so incredibly, like, they really brought their hearts to each role, and they really felt for us women, and they tried to do us justice. And one of the critical things about the movie, one of the ways in which I saved money in making the movie, was that I rehearsed a lot, like before, so that we really knew each other before we got on set. And we rehearsed and rehearsed, and I rehearsed with the guys, and we were able to make real comedy, because comedy required real knowledge of each other. And so once we really got to know each other, and we would rehearse, and we would go out, and we would eat dinners, and then once we got on set, it was just, we had chemistry.
Wow,
So
that's really important. I think, rehearsing, I think it saves time, right? And it saves
exactly.
money. So I think that's really good. We're almost, almost out of time, but what I like to do is ask you, if you could let our audience know how they can find you. And obviously, I would love to watch the movie. I'm sorry I missed the screening. I know Larry went,
Yeah,
but
he went.
did you go?
No, I wasn't there.
You weren't there. Okay. So both Johnny and I would love to see the movie, and also,
yeah.
how can everyone find you on social media, and how they can find the movie, and how they can support you, because obviously we really appreciate an artist coming out doing her own project, which, nowadays, especially with COVID time and everything, is so difficult to begin with, and you actually completing a project. So I want to congratulate you on that.
Thank
I think
you.
that's wonderful, and you just seem amazing and very ambitious.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And please let us know before we go on a break. Please share with us your, and obviously Johnny will put it on the description below, right? All her information, but please share that with us.
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook as Anna Fishbein Official. I am on Facebook as Galaxy 360 Movie. I'm on Instagram as Galaxy 360 Movie. I will be on TikTok in about 5 minutes as Galaxy 360 Movie. And I'm going to start releasing some clips so people can see parts of the movie, the really funny stuff. And I really wish you guys had seen it. Honestly,
Yeah.
it'd be really fun to discuss it once we
Mhm.
saw it.
Yes.
Sure.
So hopefully next time and soon. Um, and I just want to say to all the actors and all the artists out there, just keep doing your craft, keep putting yourself out there, even if it seems like it's not going to go anywhere or you don't think it's really the right venue, but just keep doing it because you just never know.
Yep.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Johnny, you want to add something before we go?
No, thank you very much. And yeah, thank you, everybody. We are going to take a quick break and
Yeah.
we're going to have our next guest. So thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
guys.
Anna.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Larry here, and fun to be back in the studio. And today I have a special guest. We actually met a few weeks ago at a special event in San Diego County called Secret Knock, and I was one of the speakers. She was one of the speakers, and I kind of got very fascinated with what she's doing because really has a total different take on um, teaching financial kind of issues uh, to people, particularly young people. I think there's, tremendous appeal there, and I think there's a hole in the market. I don't really think that there's anybody out there that really is, geared to dealing with young people, particularly like my daughter getting married, and, she's asking me, Dad, what's a prenup? Um, and stuff. And, Martha is a certified financial advisor from Canada, and she's written books. And welcome, Martha.
Thank you so much, Larry. It's an honor to be here.
And stuff. So, very quickly, give us a little bit of your background. Like, what led you to become a financial advisor?
So, my love for all things business and finance actually started from when I was in grade 6, from when I was 11 years old. I really found my voice in that conversation. And then I continued to build on that. And that's where I earned my Bachelor's of Commerce degree. And I believed in something very different for the financial conversation. I believe that education around it started with really the way that we feel. So I practiced what I preach to earn my second degree. So I earned my Bachelor's of Education, and I built on that platform to start my practice as a financial advisor.
Okay, but let's apply that. Let's take my daughter, for example, who's, getting married and is totally not aware of all the financial issues that marriage kind of brings to the table. And one of the questions is like, what is a prenup?
Yeah.
How do you explain a prenup that may be different from, let's say, a more traditional financial advisor?
So the way I would explain a prenup is different in that I don't start with the how. I start with the why. So we're used to asking how. How do you do a prenup? What's involved in a prenup? And we start defining it. But how does it apply to us as an individual? So when we ask why do you want to know about a prenup? And now you can start to see how it does apply to you. So you can really hear your voice in the process instead of all the noise of everything else that's out there.
So hopefully when my daughter introduces this concept to her boyfriend, he's not going to run away, right?
Well, I certainly hope not, because communication in a relationship is central. It's key. And with a prenup, you can actually really develop a positive communication cycle. This is why I do kind of the emotional work around finances that I do.
Right. And, when we talk, you constantly talk about emotional and you talk about EQ. Well, what is EQ in your mind? How do you define EQ?
So it really is your emotional intelligence around money in your life. Now, what is that even? Well, money really is a human experience. So if you think about your life, any event, small, medium, large, when it comes to its significance in your life, chances are money was there. It played a role in some way, shape, or form. And with that came your emotional associations, the way you see and perceive money in your life.
Got it. Now you've written a book. Why don't you bring
Yeah.
that book in here and let's talk
Sure.
about it a little bit. While the book is interesting, the look that we have on this book, I think, is needs some explanation. It looks like Cleopatra. I mean, why?
Right. So the story of Cleopatra for me is that my mom always told me when I was growing up that I was a direct descendant of Cleopatra. My background is Egyptian. And so the thing is, I believed her. I thought that I was a direct descendant of Cleopatra. And then I grew up to find out that every other Egyptian mother tells their daughter that she's a direct descendant of Cleopatra. But then I decided that instead of that being the feeling of not making me feel special, I decided it did make me feel special. And when we talk about EQ with money, it is internal. And that was my association with Cleopatra was internal to me. So that's why Cleopatra's Riches.
Got it. You have a very unique way of helping promote what you do in the book and stuff like that. And let's talk about this. Obviously, a pyramid, which is. Tell us what these things mean and how they relate to each other.
Well, we talked about money being a human experience, and that is what the pyramid of financial influences illustrates. So, your human experience started in your household, but the truth is, it actually started before that, in your origins. So, your origins and upbringing is where it started, and then it continued. You continued to be influenced by the community where you grew up and societal messages, and finally through relationships, through committed romantic relationships. All of that formed your emotional associations.
Got it. And how, like all these words, how do they relate to each other? Do they relate to each other or they just stand alone?
They completely relate to each other because when you're connected to your money story, which is what we were covering here, you can then really develop your own positive emotional associations with money, with the way you earn, grow, and enjoy money in your life. And the way you do that is through your emotional associations, and that continues with earning with meaning, growing your money with value, and then enjoying it with purpose in your life. And the beauty of your emotions is that no one can define that except for you.
Got it. So if you look at the landscape that's out there now with, whatever financial education there is, which I think we all agree needs some help, what are the obvious things that are missing from, let's say, the media scene and the way that financial information is being given to the public?
So I think from whether it's the industry, the financial industry, or media, I think we're really focused on the IQ information. We're focused on the how to budget, how to invest, how to manage your money in different forms. There's more to the story, and that is in the way that we feel. They really are tied together. So when we connect EQ and IQ, it changes the game because it makes the conversation unique to each person.
Well, it seems to me that the stuff that's out there, Kramer and Norman and stuff, it seems to me that they're dealing with people who are already reasonably sophisticated in financial information transactions, whatever you want to talk it. People who are accredited investors and, have a net worth of $1 million or whatever. But, there's this whole new group of people coming. My daughter, for example, how do you establish credit and prenups and, just all this kind of stuff. To me, it seems like there's a big hole in the market there.
There is.
They're not getting it from school and stuff. So
No.
We're talking about you doing something in media that'll actually impart some of that information. So tell us a little bit about the things that we kind of have planned.
So this is a far more inclusive conversation, one that's much more welcoming. So you can feel that it's accessible to you, approachable, and applicable to you as an individual. Now, with that means that it's judgment free. it is the conversation that you can approach and apply to you. So, regardless of your financial circumstance, it doesn't have to define you. That's what this conversation can do. Because while the accredited investors, that's great, and the fact that there's information out there for them, I think that's great. It doesn't represent a lot of the market. And that is exactly reflective of what you were talking about. There's a huge missing piece there, and they deserve to have access to information.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we've undergone a pretty significant societal change over the last, let's say, 20 or 30 years. I mean, it used to be, you know, women became housewives and guys went to college and then had a career. But if I look at the numbers now, I mean, it's like on the undergrad level in the U.S., it's like 60% of the undergrads are women.
Yeah.
And only 40%. So men are going more into trade kind of stuff, and women are going into, you know, the more corporate kind of stuff. And there's nothing that I've seen that kind of addresses, you know, those kind of things and stuff. So you think your show will, well, it'll appeal to everybody. Do you think it'll particularly resonate with young women?
I absolutely do. Because we're seeing a shift in income and assets. And that shift deserves a different conversation. We're seeing something different. It deserves something different.
That's good. So now, you know, for my last question, you have a young son.
I do.
And he's what, 6 years old or
He is
something
6,
like that?
yeah.
How are you preparing him for this new world of finance and stuff? Or is it just too young and it doesn't, or is there such a thing as teaching too young?
I don't believe there is such a thing as teaching too young, because the more we're talking about it, the more we normalize it. Far too many of us have grown up not talking about money in our homes. And that's built a lot of negative emotional associations. So when we talk about it, we normalize an open dialogue. That also means that our kids are going to come up to us with more questions. When they're coming up to us with more questions, it's fabulous because it gives us the opportunity to answer them. So my son is constantly hearing from me in different ways. As he matures, will be in greater detail, but he's consistently hearing from me about, you know, mommy and daddy going to work to earn. How do we earn? We're helping others. Well, how do we grow the money while we're giving it value? And these are the different things that we can do. And we discuss enjoying as a family. So he understands that there's a lot more going on than just what's at the toy store.
Fascinating. So how does our audience find you?
So you can find me, if you search Martha Adams Media, you're going to find me. So whether that is through Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, if you search Martha Adams Media, that's where I'll be. Also, marthaadamsmedia.com.
We'd like to thank Martha for joining us, and we really do look forward to seeing you turning this into an active media vehicle and getting this information out to the wide audience, because clearly it's greatly needed. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.